Hello, everyone. I'm Lee Carroll, and I channel Kryon. Okay? Who or what is Kryon? Kryon has often been described as a loving entity who gives messages of peace and empowerment for humanity. Just like the Archangel Michael and some other angelic entities, these messages are channeled through humans. Currently, there are several others who channel Kryon on the planet, since Kryon is not proprietary, just like God is not proprietary. However, I am the original Kryon and have been delivering Kryon's message since 1989. Now, to the uninitiated, Kryon is a mystery. It's no wonder the actual word Kryon wasn't in our vocabulary at all till an event occurred 37 years ago. So let me tell you about that event briefly and how Kryon came into my life. Here's how it happened. My metaphysical and very woo-woo wife at the time, Jan Tober, wanted me to go to a psychic for a reading. I wasn't interested at all. I had told Jan to leave all of her silly, weird women's things to other women and not involve me. I'm a guy. I don't do those things. But she persisted, and it was her birthday, I found out, so I went. It was awful. It was awful. I had to sit in front of this guy who spouted stuff that made no sense. He was channeling. Ugh. And I had to sit and endure it for almost an hour. We had a cassette recording going for Jan. Remember cassettes? And I gave it to her when we finished. I didn't listen to it. I didn't care. Didn't want to. Okay, wind forward 3 years, and Jan told me there was another channeler, psychic, in town, and she wanted me to go and get a reading with him. This guy, she said, was in his 20s, unlike the first guy 3 years before, who was in his 60s. And Jan assured me it would be different. Yes, it was. I walked in. He took one look at me and said, "You don't want to be here, do you?" I liked this guy. He continued, "Let me give you one short message. You don't even need to sit down." I really liked this guy. So I started the cassette and got ready, and he delivered the message, and here it is. There's a magnetic master named Kryon who is trying to get a hold of you. Aw, he was just as weird as the others. I was so disappointed, just when I thought I would get somebody, grounded and, like me. So the other thing was that I really wasn't paying attention. I didn't hear Kryon. I mean, Kryon's never been anything in our vocabulary, as I said, but there is a word that's close. I heard Kryon. Now, for those of you who don't know what Kryon is, it's still, to this day, a product. It is a rust preventative spray paint. So I thought these people are crazy anyway, so I thought spray paint was trying to get a hold of me. And somehow it was magnetic spray paint. And somehow, being magnetic service, I was going to stick this spray paint angel on my refrigerator. Okay, I know. Pretty funny. But what happened next is legendary for my work. Over a few weeks, I began to question if I had heard it correctly. And then I began to question whether I'd heard that phrase before. Could it be that the older guy 3 years earlier had said that same phrase? No way. That is not possible. I mean, how could two distinct individuals who didn't know each other, 3 years apart, and 40 years difference in age, give identical personal information to me about an entity nobody had ever heard of? Kryon. That's impossible. I mean, really impossible. I found the two cassettes and played them. I had to know. And there it was. Both had said the same phrase. There's a magnetic master named Kryon who's trying to get a hold of you, not Kryon. As an engineer, my logic was stretched to the max. It simply was too strange and too weird, and I couldn't leave it alone. I couldn't let it go. Finally, I gave in and challenged, quote, anyone who was listening. I got a chair, stood next to it, threw that challenge to anyone who's listening. I threw down the gauntlet. Okay, whoever you are, I give you one chance. I'm going to sit in the chair, invite you in. One chance. Otherwise, forget it. I sat down and was immediately overwhelmed by an intense love wash. that resulted in uncontrollable weeping. Whew. This is one I'll never forget that as long as I live. The experience was very unnerving for a practical man like me, really unnerving and deeply moving. I did it again. I got up, and then I did it again. Couldn't leave it alone. Slowly and gradually, I continued to connect with this entity who called itself Kryon. I received beautiful information that there were loving and empowering messages contained. All of these things, they were for humanity. They were actually predictions of where humanity was headed in a very loving way. It took me 4 years from the initial contact with Kryon in 1989 for the remarkable connection to reach the rest of the world. That's how long it took me to get used to it, I guess. So in 1993, Kryon Book 1, The End Times, was published. Today, well, there are 14 Kryon books in all in more than 34 languages. Then in 1999, something interesting, like an adjunct, Dan Tober and I introduced the term indigo children to the planet with the Hay House book of the same name. It became the best-selling book of that year for Hay House, and we wrote then 2 more. Along the way, I was invited and channeled 7 times at the United Nations in New York. The prestigious Watkins magazine in the UK has listed me as, quote, one of the top 100 most spiritual living people on the planet. I like the living part, actually. And now you are watching me, all these years later, on this video, where Kryon is still coming to me in an amazing, loving way. Who is Kryon? He, she, is my best friend, my soul partner, and a messenger for life about a humanity that is empowering and healing itself. And the magnetic part? Well, human consciousness and the magnetic grid of the planet are entangled. And right now, as we are experiencing a great shift in consciousness, the entire reason Kryon is here is obvious. I'm grateful beyond words for what happened to me. And I continue to be filled with love as Kryon continues to work with me. I'm Lee Carroll, channel for Kryon. Thank you.